Welcome back to Council Candidates Live, Round 1. I'm Sandy Jacobson. This segment is one of 4, which gives a group of the candidates for City Council a chance to answer a wide range of questions asked on video by community leaders. The League of Women Voters of Santa Monica Education Fund has randomly divided the candidates into small groups so that they can both answer the questions and interact with their fellow candidates in a roundtable forum. Now let me introduce the candidates for segment 3 of Council Candidates Live, Round 1. Welcome John Mann, Kevin McKeown, and Phil Brock. Will you lead us off with an opening statement, John, please?
I'm running for City Council because I want to take the money out of politics and I want to clean up City Hall. It's been so many years since I started running for City Council in 1992 and nothing has really changed. Candidates always say the same thing. They make promises that they can't keep. But I have a way to keep my promise for transparency and accountability. I want to have a virtual town hall on the city website so we can have residents involved in government. I want to take our city back from Santa Monica's Renters' Rights. Santa Monica's Renters' Rights is in a coalition with the city employees, and they're working together with the developers.
Thank you, John. Kevin McKeown, please.
Well, Sandy, as a council member, I have always represented residents, not special interests, and I've protected residents, the people who live here, against overdevelopment and displacement. I opposed the eviction of 50 rent-controlled households at San Vicente and Ocean. I voted against the eviction of vulnerable seniors at Village Trailer Park. And of course, I voted against that horrible, oversized, traffic-generating Hines project. In my time on the council, I have never taken any developer money. In fact, I've taken no corporate contributions at all. I am supported by residents and by Santa Monicans for Renters' Rights. I'm also endorsed by the Santa Monica Coalition for a Livable City, by Residocracy, and by our Santa Monica firefighters and police officers. I'm Kevin McKeown. I'd like to work for you for another 4 years. Thanks.
Thank you, Kevin. Phil Brock, please.
Hi, I'm Phil Brock. I'm the chair of the Recreation and Parks Commission. I'm a native of this city, second generation. I've volunteered in the city for almost 40 years. I've worked for the betterment of youth. I've worked for the betterment of my fellow citizens. I've always said I'm an optimist because I believe we can stop overdevelopment in Santa Monica, because I believe we can have solid height limits, solid density limits, and we can take the back room and side rooms out of our political life. I want, when children grow up, for them to see the sky behind a palm tree, not a building. I'm Phil Brock. I would like your vote on November 4th.
Thank you, John, Kevin, and Phil. Our questions come from community leaders and have been videotaped in advance. Let's see our first question. It has to do with the living wage ordinance.
I'm Reverend Janet Gollery McKithen from the church in Ocean Park. My question to you is, will you work toward the establishment of a living wage ordinance? Why or why not?
Okay, pretty concise. Kevin, what's your response?
Wide history on this, Sandy. I've worked for a living wage ordinance. I helped pass living wage for hotels back in 2000. That was taken away from us by referendum, but I haven't given up. When we recently approved some new hotels, I helped assure that the workers in those hotels will be making at least $15.37 an hour. We know that our surrounding city of Los Angeles is now looking at a living wage in certain industries. I think that once that happens, it'll be much easier for us to achieve a living wage within Santa Monica without having to compete with our neighbors.
Thank you, Kevin. Phil Brock?
Yes, we need to match the proposed Los Angeles living wage. You know, we have so many problems right now with our high rents, so many problems with people not being able to afford to live in Santa Monica. Let's raise the wages in Santa Monica so our residents can have a living wage and a good life in our city.
Thank you, Phil. And how about you, John?
Well, nobody's going to say they're against a living wage. What I'm really concerned about in this city is the amount of money that's being paid to city employees. Now, Kevin says that he doesn't represent any special interests, but he does. He represents the city employees, some of them who are making $400,000 a year. There's one city employee for every 41 residents in this city.
Okay. Wait, let's put this into our roundtable. Kevin, how do you respond to what John just said?
Actually, I'm proud that I'm
And
endorsed.
look at each other.
I'm proud that I'm endorsed by our city employees, most of whom are blue-collar workers. And our city jobs are the sorts of jobs that create a strong middle class, which is what a community needs. These are people who get job stability and a decent wage. I'm proud that our government provides that.
Are you proud that you are endorsed by the city employees?
Very.
And you reward them for that endorsement, and you're not represented by any special interests?
You know, John, my values have always been solid on the side of labor and workers. That's who I am. I think people endorse me because of who I am, not because of what I'll do for them.
Well,
Phil,
the city
wait,
employees
let's-
endorse
But there
you
is
because of what you do for them.
Let's give Phil a chance.
There is a legitimate concern. We have 62 city employees who made over $300,000 each last year. Our city budget is comparable to Pasadena. They have 50,000 more people than we do. We do have to find a way to control our city budget. We do have to find a way to control the amount of employees we have in our city. And whatever way that is, we have to figure out what we're doing wrong. And maybe the start of that is advertising for the next city manager at a wage that's comparable to other cities that surround us.
Speaking of city managers, I would like to see Elizabeth Reel hired as our next city manager. She was fired by a recommendation that our mayor made to the current city manager, Ron Gould.
Okay, so
That's many of the people who are earning those high wages are police officers and firefighters. These are people who run towards somebody with a gun. These are people who run
$400,000?
into a burning building. We hire people to be competitive with other cities. Our city is a big business, and it takes good people to run it.
Our police officers work 3 days a week, 36 hours a week. Mostly what they do is domestic abuse, shoplifters, and small crimes like
I
that.
believe 13 of those city employees that make over $300,000 each are in the city attorney's office. Our city manager makes over $150,000 over the city of Pasadena, over the city manager in Santa Barbara. We are paying higher than we need to for comparable work, and we need to start, instead of salary inflation for our top level executives, we need to start salary level deflation so that they're comparable to other cities. Now, our blue collar workers, I want them making a fair living wage, and I want them covered by medical insurance and covered for what they do.
But we
Glad
need
to
to
hear
get
that.
rid of
You
some of
know,
the
I will not
people
hire
at the top.
second-class executives for a first-class city.
All right.
Would you hire
okay.
Elizabeth Reel?
All right. I happen to know that question comes up at another time. I don't know if it's your question or not. All right, we've heard our candidates answer our first question about living wage, not a living wage, minimum wage. And now we'd like to hear from you. To participate, text your answer to 22333. Text the answer that you see in the parentheses on the screen. The question is, will you work toward the establishment of a living wage ordinance? Why or why not? Should Santa Monica adopt a living wage ordinance? If you believe that yes is the right answer, then text yes SM2. No, go no SM2. And don't know, go DKSM2. And you can also go to pollev.com/citytv, and it's a little bit easier to vote on that because you just click the answer. So then we're going to go to a question about sustainability.
My name is Meredith McCarthy. I'm Director of Programs at Heal the Bay. How would you ensure that the new city manager would help lead the city on sustainability issues?
All right, another quick but important question. Phil, we'll start with you.
Sustainability is obviously of prime concern. That starts with water. That goes to a whole host of city programs. We should be requiring all new construction to have solar roofs. We should not be approving new construction new rental construction without individual water meters. So I would want a city manager to make sure that they were matching other cities and then exceeding and leading programs to make our city the greenest city we can. And lastly, the way to have a really green city and a really green building, the green building is the one we don't tear down, that we just rehab.
All right. John, how do you respond to the need for sustainability?
Well, I'm a Green Party candidate, and of course that I'm for sustainability, but this city has a reputation for sustainability, but it's a facade. I'll give you one example. You see these green stripes on the road for bicycles? It's supposed to make it safe. Well, it really doesn't. What we need are barriers that will prevent. And another thing that's going on is this 3 feet is on Ocean Park Boulevard. It's so narrow that if an automobile driver gives a bicyclist 3 feet, he's going to be in the other lane.
All right. Kevin, how do you respond?
Well, I can assure Meredith McCarthy and Heal the Bay that sustainability will be one of the things I'm looking at as we hire a city manager. I'm endorsed by the Sierra Club. My interest in this goes back a long way. I've helped form our Sustainable City Plan and helped get past our Sustainability Bill of Rights. So in a new city manager, I want somebody who understands this community's unique commitment to sustainability. We have been willing to do things before other communities even tried them. I want somebody who's willing to be an innovator in sustainability.
Thank you, Kevin. All right, so do you all agree?
Well, I'd like to ask Kevin, will you go on the record and endorse Elizabeth Reel? And will you prosecute Ron Gold and Pam O'Connor for their collaboration on having her fired?
I will not.
That's what I thought.
Phil, what?
You're right for
Let's
once.
bring it back to sustainability.
No, I'm left.
You know,
I'm a true left.
what Kevin just finished saying, not about Elizabeth Reel, but before that, I absolutely agree. Our city manager has to be someone who knows about Santa Monica. That's really important. And they know our unique culture. They know our unique way of doing things. And, you know, the only thing I would disagree on is we're not as often a leader in sustainability as we used to be. We've become a city that follows instead of leads. And one of my pet issues is bike sharing. We're 4 years behind where I thought we would be on bike sharing. So let's make sure that we take the lead again and do things as quickly as possible.
May I pick that up on bike sharing,
Please.
Sandy? Because I've been working on bike sharing not only in Santa Monica, but with the West Side Cities Coalition of Governments, which I'm our representative to. The holdup has not been Santa Monica. We've actually been ready for years. We've had the funding. The problem is that unlike many cities that adopt bike sharing, we are surrounded by another city. And it only makes sense that a bike that you pick up to share in Santa Monica be exchangeable in Venice or West LA or Brentwood for the system to work. Our problem has been having to coordinate with Los Angeles and other cities around us.
That's a load of, hold on.
Wait.
That's a load of bullpucky because I'm a cyclist and I've been riding bicycles on their streets for years, and there's a war going on between pedestrians, motorists, and cyclists. Cyclists are being forced on the sidewalks, and we're endangering pedestrians, and nothing is being done about this in this so-called sustainable city.
Phil, I saw you start to say something.
You know, in the case of bike sharing, I wanted us to lead. I felt other cities would pick up on our system. And I'm disappointed, as I know you are, Kevin, that we weren't able to get this on the road earlier. I know we'll have it on the road next year, finally, and I think you and I both appreciate that we'll have 350 to 500 bikes on the road. That's part of our sustainable effort. But you know, you look at NMS apartments. NMS apartments are supposed to have had individual water meters on all their units. They keep getting waivers to not do that. That's not sustainable. And for water conservation, every unit needs an individual water meter.
All right, I think you guys have covered that one. Let us go to now, if you've just tuned in, we're doing a live audience poll tonight, and we want you to participate. Text or email us your vote on the question you see on the screen. Will you work toward the establishment of a living wage ordinance? Why or why not? Should Santa Monica adopt a living wage ordinance? Yes, if you believe yes, text to 22333 and go yes, SM2. If you don't think so, go no SM2. And if you don't know, you could still weigh in at DK SM2. So let's move on to our next question, which comes from the editor of Santa Monica Next.
Hi, I'm Jason Eastloss, editor of Santa Monica Next, and this is my question. What do you believe is the greatest local challenge facing the new generation of Santa Monica residents moving here today? What can you do as a city council member to help us address that challenge?
John?
Well, of course, the big development issue right now is development, and the city council for years now is responsible for allowing that to happen. They have not prepared with the light rail. That's completely out of control. When it's going to be finished, there's going to be chaos in this city. The other thing is that I lost my train of thought.
Well, we'll get it back for you in the round table. Kevin?
Jason, the biggest problem that you and anybody else who's young wanting to live in Santa Monica faces is affordable housing. There's no question about that. It's the struggle I faced when I moved here as a young man. I had to find a place to live, and rents in Santa Monica right now are extraordinarily expensive. That's one reason I support measures H and HH on the ballot, because we need to find a way to fund affordable housing. I work at Samo High, among the other schools in our district, and every year I watch graduates leave the stage with their diploma in hand, and I know they'll go to college and then be unable to afford to come back and live in their own hometown. That's wrong.
Thank you, Kevin. Phil Brock?
Well, affordable housing is, of course, a huge issue. But that's a huge issue for our region, not only Santa Monica. And it doesn't mean ultra-low and ultra-low cost housing. It means entry-level, middle-class housing. And we need to find a way to build that in low-rise units in the city of Santa Monica, because the people who are moving here don't want to live in high-rises. They want to experience that authentic beach culture. That's why they're coming to Santa Monica. So that's one. Number two, traffic. Right. We have to control our traffic.
All right, let's start with that one. Let's go to the round
table. Traffic has gotten out of control, and like I said before, it's because of the city council. Every election they say they're going to do something about traffic, but they never do. Now, the affordable housing is another scam. What's been going on is people who live here in rent-controlled buildings are being Ellised out, and they're being told that they can move into affordable housing, so-called affordable housing, which is really way too expensive for them. So a lot of the people who work here do not live here, and a lot of the people who live here do not work here, and that's contributing to the problem, and the city council hasn't made any preparations for that, and they've had 30 years.
I think Phil has a response for you.
It's not really a response, but I want to go back to something that Councilmember McEwen said. I'm on the opposite end of H and HH. I'm on the opposite end of that because no city should triple a tax in their city of any sort, any time. That's abominable.
Well,
so
the problem is we have young people and we have older people on fixed incomes who absolutely need this affordable housing to live in Santa Monica, and it's part of our traffic problem.
So it's
part of the reason why we have so much traffic
tax.
Is that because we have people who have to come in and out of our city every day. We're fortunate to be a commercial center, a regional shopping center. As long as we don't have enough of housing and affordable housing to cover all the jobs we've created, we're going to have commuter traffic. That's the side effect.
But
wait, hold on, John. John wanted to jump in.
Phil's right. I mean, this city is really rich. I mean, we have over $500 million in revenues, and our city council wants more. So they're raising more taxes. Every single election, there are more taxes.
What John's forgotten is the state took away the redevelopment money that funded affordable housing.
We have already passed the highest sales tax in the state. Every single election, we pass more taxes, but you never have enough. Start cutting the budget. Start getting rid of some of these dead weights that are at the top at the Civic Center who don't even work.
All right. Let's give Phil a chance. I see him nodding his head.
But, you know, Kevin, it's an exit tax. It's a tax for development. If we had said, let me finish. If we said, let me finish. If we said that we were going to match LA's tax, LA's exit tax, their document and transfer tax, I would be for it. Any tax that we're going to triple shows a disdain for our residents. We should never show disdain for our residents. And look at Nobody's justified this $14 to $16 million a year. Let's justify it. Before we ask for taxes, let's prove without a shadow of doubt that we need them.
Let me give you
Thank
let me give a shot at that.
I just remembered.
No, we're going to let Kevin.
All right.
And then we have to get out
Phil
of this
wanted to
question.
justify why we need H&HH. Let's recognize that we had state redevelopment money for many years, and that gave us about $68 million a year, of which we used a great deal for affordable housing. We now have to backfill the money that the state has taken away from us. Now, this fee you're saying should be equitable with LA. Would you be happy to match what San Francisco does?
No, because, well, sure.
Because, okay,
actually, I would.
Because, Phil, you don't know. They go up to
No.
$25 on the fee.
They do.
So different
on a sale
cities
of
have
over
different, I was in the
$15
middle of my
million,
statement. They have
a sale
different
of over
fees in different
15. On a
cities.
sale of $1 million, Kevin, they're cheaper than we are. They're less.
Okay.
That was a misnomer. That was a lie. That was presented in City Council. That was wrong.
Okay, thank you.
It is
Bill.
a graduated.
It's clear
fee.
then you don't care enough about affordable housing.
Well,
and
no,
that's why many people won't support
I
you.
care
We're
deeply
clear.
about all of our residents in the city.
Well,
And
except
that
those who
means
can't afford
that-
to live here.
Okay, you guys.
Well, if they-
all right, so
we have
we're
to
having
care
a
about
lot
our
of
people who
fun
live
here.
here,
All right,
Kevin.
Phil, we're having a lot of fun here and with our live interactive poll. Tell us your opinion and answer the same questions that we're asking the candidates. If you want to vote via text, send us the info in the parentheses to 22333 or vote online at pollev.com/citytv. Let's see who's up next. I know this next question. I love this next question. All right, we're going to go. Listen to this.
You're given absolute authority in Santa Monica for one day to do one thing. What do you do?
King for a day. If you were the dictator of Santa Monica for one day, Phil Brock, what would you do?
Everyone gets to surf for free for the day, and we have great surf in our ocean. I think that's a perfect
Well,
day.
now you're acting more like a god than a
You know, look it. There are many things that we should be doing. One of them is find ways to reduce our traffic. Secondly, in traffic, we have a problem that we can solve. We put traffic officers around our Santa Monica Place and Santa Monica Promenade, and yet we do nothing as people exit our city each day. Let's treat our residents as well as we treat the tourists in our downtown. And that's in every area of our city.
Thank you. John, how would you respond?
Well,
If you could do anything for one day,
I think you know my answer.
surprise me.
I've run for city council 12 times now. Initially, I was campaigning for an electric town hall. Now, people over 30 don't always get this, but what I want the city to do is to have a virtual town hall on the city website. That will give empowerment to the residents, and it'll do another thing that's very important. It'll hold our city council and our city officials accountable and transparent.
Thank you, John. Kevin.
Well, Cindy, if I had the ability to do anything I wanted to do on that day,
That's the question.
I would hop on my bike and ride to the beach. And that really informs my
No,
whole
the
philosophy.
question
No, I
is for-
would.
The
No.
question is about Santa Monica.
It
What
is,
would
and
you
then
do?
if you'll let me finish, I'll explain why that's relevant.
Okay.
That informs my whole philosophy about Santa Monica. I think we should never forget that we are lucky enough to be a city by the beach. And that's why I've opposed the high-rise condo towers along Ocean Avenue, why I feel it's important to provide affordable housing so people of all different means can live in one egalitarian community by the beach. It's why I think that slow growth, thoughtful growth is so important, because our beachfront means that many, many millions of dollars want to come here. We should get to pick and choose as residents the best developments for Santa Monica because we're a beach town.
Thank you. And you're
Kevin
right.
is
I didn't see where you were going with that. I thought you were just going to take the day off.
Kevin and I are both going to the beach.
Well, I live at the beach, but Kevin is talking about affordable housing. Let
You're
me tell
luckier
you
than
what
we are, John.
Santa Monica Renters' Rights means by affordable housing. They're talking about a family of 4 that makes $68,000 a year. That's affordable housing. It's not low-income housing, and that's what this city needs. That's what this city is losing, because so many of our rent control apartments are being demolished and replaced with so-called affordable housing by NMS.
Well, I'll respond to
Okay.
that, John. You're, as usual, underinformed. The numbers you're quoting are not SMER numbers. Those are state and federal numbers. What we,
Doesn't
as the City
matter.
Council,
Well,
have done
that's
recently
anything.
is to reduce both the rent level and the income thresholds and provide affordable housing for
How
people
big are
at
those
30%.
houses?
John, we're going to let Kevin
Okay.
finish.
Provide housing for people at only 30% of median income. That's where much of the real need is. We don't need to do a whole lot in terms of moderate and workforce housing. That's being provided by the marketplace. It's the poorest among us who really need the help.
That's just what I said.
Okay, then you're in agreement.
No,
That's
we're not,
great.
because
Oh,
I'm
that's
talking
funny.
about low-income housing. He's talking about affordable housing.
It strikes me that they're very close in.
No.
No. Phil?
And
Ask Phil, he'll say the same thing.
well, and the other problem is that once we have federal or state funds in any of our low-cost housing programs, we can't determine that those people who qualify will be Santa Monica residents now. So the majority of people who end up in our low-cost housing programs, in our low-cost housing, the parking structure, apartment tower on 4th, just above Wilshire, is a perfect example. It was a lottery. Hardly anybody from Santa Monica who was in need of housing got into that building. We have to figure out other ways to solve our housing problems. And you know what?
Let me make one quick comment.
There's one
Hold
thing
on,
I
let
want
him
to
finish,
mention.
please.
And this sounds horrible, but you know, we can't be the housing program for the world. We only have 8 square miles. We're the 6th most densely populated city in California and the 2nd most stressed suburb in America. Packing more people into Santa Monica right
Okay,
now will destroy our dreams of a beach city.
Now, what I want to bring up, and I forgot to mention this before, it just came back to me. We have a person at this table who makes 6 figures.
Okay,
working
we
for
are
the
not
school
going.
district.
We're not doing
He
that.
lives
John, I'm sorry.
in a
I
rent
don't
control
mean-
apartment.
John, I'm sorry. We're not attacking each other.
Okay.
I want to go
That is-
back, though, to the
I'd
affordable
like him to
housing
address that,
question.
though.
I wouldn't.
And the project you were talking about at 4th and Wilshire, that was built 15 years ago, Phil, and I don't know if you've kept track of the changes we made, but we no longer take the federal and state money that requires us to open it up. In fact, you just made one of the best arguments for measures H and HH, because they will provide us local money for affordable housing that we totally control. Our policy now is affordable housing goes first to people who've been evicted from housing in Santa Monica, second to people who already live here but can't afford the rent they're paying, third to people who work in Santa Monica or study in Santa Monica and want to live close to where they work or study. So our policies have changed, and the argument you gave was
It's a little
outmoded
late.
by 15 years.
It's a little late
right.
to
However-
change your
Phil,
policy.
respond.
However,
We've already changed
be
it,
that
John.
as it may,
Okay, all right.
the change is good, but you still can't triple someone's tax bill.
Okay.
We just did
in
that on
Santa
the
Monica.
Monica.
Guys,
You
all
sti-
right,
you
Phil,
Phil,
still
we just passed a park
but
fee
he's
that
right.
more than
Phil-
tripled the old fee, and you were all for that.
Kevin,
because
and
the old
all right.
fee was
I want to
$125
thank you. You won't
established
let
in
me thank you. I want to thank you.
1981.
We'll be gracious and allow you to thank us.
Thank you.
You have
I
the
would-
floor.
Thank you so much. But now let me thank you for being on our show tonight. And it's time to take a look at our audience poll results. You heard John, Kevin, and Phil talk about our living wage ordinance. What did you think? So let's see. Yes, the yes votes went to 69%, would like to see the establishment of a living wage ordinance in Santa Monica. The no votes were only at 8%, and those don't know people, 23%.
That's the Santa Monica I know and love. Thank you, Sarah.
It's time to take, right.
and that's where we want to live.
All right, it's time to take a short break to bring in our next group of candidates. We'll be right back with our final segment, where we'll be talking to Sue Himmerich, Richard McKinnon, and Zoe Montaner, and Michael Feinstein. Stay tuned.